Hello, everybody. What is good? Got my Arizona tea on. I am working on surprising family and doing an impromptu trip. So I'm convincing myself that I'm going to do that. And I also love, you're welcome. I love this Zivia cream soda. It's my favorite. I don't love all their flavors. I think they have a new one, strawberry, but love it. I don't know what it is. Probably should be drinking water, but whatever. So fun fact, another one, apparently I'm giving them to you today. I manage a social media accounts for a private foundation, which because of the broad topics that this foundation supports and because of some of the connections and exposure that this foundation has, it's really important to have a social media strategy in place so that you're not sort of backtracking. But I also am on social media for myself and personally. And so I found that being new to the social media land and social media world, that I needed some boundaries, some intention, some clarity before stepping into the wild, basically. And my background is actually in journalism and communications and film. So I had a lot of experience with once something is out in the public, it's technically public record, even if you delete it, right? So I was always very anti social media, but it actually is one of the ways that we connect in the world. So at any rate, I know the value of having a clear plan or a strategy when it comes to social media so that this somehow does not control your life. You do not want your phone. You do not want dopamine. You do not want all of this adrenaline, judgment, comparison, all of this craziness to control your life. And you also don't want to be on this majority of your time. And if you are somebody who is a social media influencer, and if that is like your primary form of influencing and connecting with the world and all of that, then I just also recommend that you have more time where you're offline and where you're filling up your cup. Otherwise, that can get blurry really quickly. So I have 7 thoughts for you to approach social media, and you can kind of take what works for you and let go of what doesn't. But I've got these thoughts for you to really help you avoid losing your mind when you're on social media, because a lot of times we forget that we can control how we show up, but we absolutely cannot control how other people show up. But we can enforce how people engage and participate and interact with us, right? So let's do this. All right. Number 1, numero uno, is moderate. There we go. Moderate the comments. So whether you have a blog, a lot of times blogs will have settings where you can moderate comments. So for example, before any comment is actually published on your site, you can get emailed before it's posted so that you can approve it. And you can also respond to it, whatever you want to do. You can actively do that daily, maybe spend a few minutes on any new post, just sort of scrolling through some comments. If you're only posting a couple of posts a day, right? That's something that could be manageable depending on how many followers that you have. But have an intention to moderate what is spoken onto your page, right? So for example, we know that the tongue, right? The tongue can speak blessing and cursing, life and death, right? So not only can we do that, but other people can do that onto our stuff. So it's really important that you're moderating that. That's a literal thing, right? So making sure that that is just something that's not tolerated on your page. And so you can moderate and go through. You can even hire somebody to do this. This could be part of their job. Maybe they spend an hour a day doing that. Who knows? Maybe that's too much, but it just depends on what your level is. But making sure that certain things do not get commented or posted on your page is really important to protect the environment and the community that you're building. So for example, if your social media page is like a house and you're in a neighborhood, you don't want certain things in your neighborhood, right? You want good looking out, but you don't need crime and all sorts of other crazy stuff going on in your neighborhood, right? So number one is moderate comments. So help yourself out by adjusting that in settings in the first place. If you're new to starting a blog, whatever it happens to be, make sure that you set the settings correctly. But then also either hire somebody or set aside time, schedule that time where you're going to go through and moderate comments so that you can also monitor or moderate just in general what comes to your page, okay? Number two is have a strong spam filter. So if you have a website, if you are on YouTube, I know YouTube has settings similar to a blog where if somebody is going to comment on your video, you will get a notification on YouTube. You can get notifications so you can see it as a new alert and you can go click on it. A lot of times if there's bots or weird things like that, you can go on there and you can just delete them and you can report it immediately. You can also get emailed that as well. So if people are doing comments, you can just go through your email inbox versus having to log into YouTube and moderate it there. So have a strong spam filter to avoid people using your emails, filling out your forms, doing all of that kind of stuff, and just getting a lot of junk, okay? So that would be number two. These are just some basic, simple things that you can set up. Number three is set up a comment policy. So for example, within the realm of this private organization, there's no commenting, meaning no one from the organization is commenting based on comments or responding to direct messages because this particular organization is not open to new funding or new requests or all of that. So there would not really be a functional purpose of messaging back and forth. Now, I've worked with other companies and organizations and that hasn't been their policy, but it's really important from the get-go to be clear on what your commenting policy is. Particularly as an individual, you want your audience to have an expectation of, are you going to be commenting? Do you leave them all alone? Are you liking and responding immediately? What is your policy and what is something that is sustainable for you? So I recommend thinking long-term with this one. Do you want to constantly be in your comments and constantly in your direct messages? Is that how you really want to connect with people? What does that look like? Do you prefer email? Do you prefer people fill out some sort of form? Whatever that is, it's really important to have a policy from the get-go so that you're not caught in that gray area when you're out in the wild, right? So if people are commenting, are you always going to be responding? Are you not responding at all? Is somebody doing it on your behalf? How does your audience know that somebody's doing that on your behalf? How can you operate with comments in integrity, right? Really, really important. And you can also, when you're connecting with your audience, you can guide them in how to connect with you. So if it's not comments, you can be transparent about that. You can comment. I can't promise you that I'm going to see it. The best way to get in touch is this email in this inbox. And you can have somebody else monitoring that if you want to. It just depends on what your policy is as far as privacy goes and privacy is concerned and how connected you want to be. I know some folks that will not hire somebody to do that. They absolutely love connecting with their audience. They love engaging with them. And some people do not like that at all. And it depends because if you're on Instagram, for example, rather than being in your comments, you could have all that activity happening up in your story. So the key is to be clear on what your policy is and then guide people into your expectation. Okay, so that's number three. Number four is respond to the best of your ability to questions from your audience. Now, I recommend doing this on a schedule. So maybe there is a certain day and a certain time that you're actually going to get to all the questions. Again, maybe you hire somebody to go through the questions and you can have certain parameters for when they should bring that to your attention. But if there is not grace with this, if there's not a schedule with this, you will find that this starts to rule your life. You will feel like you always need to be on here. You always need to be checking things out. If you have notifications going on your phone all the time, it is very, very difficult to be present and engaged in the moment, particularly if you're committed to living a spirit-led life. It is easy to get distracted. So unless you're putting parameters in place for yourself to really thrive, then you can't expect that's going to be your experience, right? So make it easier on yourself. Have a schedule. Maybe it's on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you're going to be live in your DMs or in your email or your inbox, whatever, for an hour. Or maybe it's daily for an hour just for a set time so that you're not on here all day back and forth. Because when you're on here all day back and forth, it's just a lot of idle and wasted time. It's not intentional time. Okay, so that's really important to respond to questions from your audience to the best of your ability. It is recommended to have a schedule that you do it every day, to time yourself even. So set a timer and just go through to be able to flag things, like have some sort of system, right? Is there, for example, when you're responding to questions, are some of those questions turning into content? And maybe that needs to be dumped into a content document or file. Maybe those need to be answered immediately. Maybe that needs to be flagged. Maybe you actually want to follow up and send a book to somebody, for example, or send them a gift or send them a recommendation, something that requires an extra step. Maybe that's a different file. So make sure that you have systems in place to really be effective with doing that. So it just doesn't seem like scattered time, or that you can be really effective with that hour. And just trust that when you're showing up with that time, that you will get through whatever needs attention, because it could feel like one of those things that's never ending, right? So keep that in mind. Okay, I feel like there was something connected to that. One second. Having a schedule, setting aside time. If it comes back, I'll let you know. Okay, number 5 is, have limits on what you give away for free. Have limits on what you give away for free. Because I see this, I have felt that awkwardness of feeling like you constantly need to be creating value, constantly need to be creating freebies, constantly need to be giving. And to some degree, I can tell because of the lifestyle habits and practices that I put in my life as checks and balances that I'm starting to get out of alignment. And when I am out of alignment, when I'm lacking clarity, it's not a good time. And I'm not able to give my best, and I don't operate well from that place. So you've really got to have limits on what you give away for free. And that is something that I recommend praying about first and foremost, because there's going to be so many different recommendations out there on what you should be doing. And I also love the saying, stop shoulding on yourself. Like, that's for real. If we are not careful and if we are not intentional about what we are actually being led to do, what we're actually being divinely inspired to do, what we're actually be strengthened and energized to do, what we actually have wisdom to do, right? And anointing to do, if we're not clear and taking ownership of that, we can get really swept up into all the shoulds and have tos, and that just makes us crazy, okay? So have limits on what you give away for free. Something that I like to consider is, on the receiving end, let's say that I am interested in a coaching program or a course or something of that extent, right? On the receiving end, I like it when somebody is telling me what it's about so that I can get a little preview of it before I experience it. So whether that is a webinar that I'm watching for free, whether that is being put into their email subscription and some of the emails that I'm getting that are giving me more information about who they are and what they're about, whether that is a free download worksheet and maybe I find out more information about them and I'm led to their website, whatever it is that is short, sweet, to the point, I like that direct kind of talk. Like, who are you? What are you about? What are you offering? Do I jive with that or not? Like, I don't need, for me personally, this is not everybody, but for me personally, I don't need all the extra. To me, it's actually somewhat annoying, right? Like, I don't want to go through all of these crazy steps just to find out that you do X, Y, or Z. Just tell me what you do, right? And why you do it and why you do it differently, right? So I kind of keep that in mind when I'm presenting things, right? So I have a main hub where people can get access to all of my information. That's my website. And then I have so many different things that they can connect to for free. So they can connect with me here, which is a little more intimate, personal one-on-one. They can listen to my podcast totally free. They can get a free download from my website. There's a lot of blog posts over there. What else? I do some free trainings and webinars. I have downloadable worksheets and things. And then I package a lot more value for an investment. So for example, you can get a sense of the things that I am about here. I'm about spirit-led living. I'm about real life transformation. I'm about breaking generational curses and patterns. I'm about owning your stuff and taking radical responsibility for your life and living in the wonderful new. I am about healthy relationships. I am about modeling the way and sharing testimonies. So you can get a sense of that. But then when I package something, it's to get a certain outcome for you. If you go through this, this is the deliverable that you're going to get. Okay. So for example, I have a self-mastery course over on my website because I know that was a search that had a lot of anxiety connected to it. Like, who am I? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? Who am I supposed to be doing it with? Right? Like, that was such a crazy space to be living in for years of my life. And it could feel like that's wasted time. And I learned a ton. So I packaged how to really know thyself and how to really level up, so to speak, that really fun trending hashtag, right? How to level up and really how to visualize your highest self beyond the manifesting talk. That's important. But how do you do it in a very spirit-led way? What are the questions that you ask yourself? How do you know that you know that you know what you're supposed to do? How do you check yourself? How do you build accountability into your life? Like, how do you legitimately level up despite, or in spite of, better said, the conditions in your life right now, or who you're currently connected to, or the things that you're facing and maybe struggling with? Like, how do you, in those conditions, level up, right? So that is something that I package, because you're not going to get, you can listen to videos on YouTube that I've done, or you can listen to a lot of podcasts and get a ton of value, but you're not going to get the accelerated breakthrough. Okay. So I've packaged that to simplify the process and to actually have a program that you go through so that you start somewhere, you go through a process and you end up somewhere else and better. Right. Then I also have coaching programs as well. So yes, you can get a sense of how I flow, who I am. You can start to know, like, and trust me, maybe on the interwebs here, right? But working with me is different. So there's an investment for that too, because of the education, the training, the coaching that I've done, the breakthroughs that I've helped people get, the breakthroughs that I've walked through, the anointing, all of that stuff, the gifting, right? My time, my value that I bring, right? So that has an investment on it. Okay. So what is the limit of what you give away for free? I know, because of who I work with, because of what it takes to make content, because of what it takes or requires of me to be consistent in delivering value that I am proud of and that I can stand behind. I know what that requires because I'm consistent in my process. I know what is going on in my life and what it's taking for me to operate, right? So I have a sense of what I can take on and what I can't. So there's a certain number of people that I work with during any given time. And because of that, I have set times that I create content, and that's it. And I give away freebies, but it's usually connected to a coaching program or something that I'm doing. So it's not extra work. So you've got to decide what that looks like for you, but it's really, really important. So you can give away you can give away the content, okay? But the application is going to be what somebody would pay for. That's probably the most simplified way of combining what I just said. So for example, you can give away little pieces of content, or you can tell them, here's the meat of what this is, to your audience, right? But the application, working with me, going through the course, right? That is something that you're going to pay for with me. And there's usually a lot that's behind that too. So think about that. If you invested money in creating the course and designing the course and building out the course and giving away all of these tools that took you years to learn, right? And your training and your expertise, if you are putting that all together, that cost you something with me. So just giving that away for free, you've got to decide if that's worth it to you. I would say no, because you want to be, great way to say this is that you want to be a person of resource that's able to give more, that's able to do more, that's able to provide more. And unless you value who you are, and unless you know that your work is of high service to the world, it's not going to be something that you can build and that will be sustainable. So that's got to be something that you think about. Again, I really enjoy connecting freebies and content and all of that to a schedule. So for example, I have a content calendar that's on documents that I can access from my computer, my phone. So even if I have a download, I can add it. And that's really helpful. So think about all the weeks in a year, write out all the content so that when you feel stuck or maybe you're on a day that you're not as inspired, you can use a prompt for what you already created. So I enjoy having some structure, but freedom within the structure. Okay, so I found that when I have basic structure, there's freedom to show up within the structure. Okay, number 6. Do not put up with trolls, with bullies, abusive language, or threats. I mean, you can wear your thumb out just using the block feature. Okay, like let your block ministry be strong. Use wisdom, but let your block ministry be strong, because you are not here to win everyone's approval. You're not here for that. You are here for who you're called to. And that's not going to be everybody, and that's a good thing. So if there's people that cannot honor, respect, and show up in a mature way in any of your social media platforms, don't hesitate to level up your block ministry, okay? Because there's just some things that are not tolerated, right? I know that I've been live on some platforms. I think Periscope is one of the ones that's wild as far as like troll activity, right? And it's usually happening when you are releasing a very strong or powerful word. So I do not get distracted. Sometimes it's helpful to have somebody else that's monitoring that. So you can have a point person that's monitoring the chat that can control that while you're just focusing, so that that's not even something that you're paying attention to. But if you're not in a place where you can do that, I would ignore it while in the flow. But if it's something where you've had to give a warning and it's just getting crazy, you also want to protect who is in your covering in that time. So you can also pause and remove that, particularly if you've already done a warning and they're not paying attention. And you do want to protect your people and make sure that they're not being distracted and they can really receive what you're releasing. So don't put up with it, basically. So figure out what those boundaries are for you, but do not feel like you have to apologize or feel bad about that at all. Okay. And number 7, similar, take care of any guest authors or if you have a podcast, anybody that is a guest on any of your platforms, make sure that you're moderating the comments, that you're taking care of them, that people aren't coming after them in some kind of way through your platform. So make sure that before, during, after any sort of guest appearance, that you are monitoring that activity and making that a safe space for whoever your guest is. Okay, so man, there was like something, it's not coming now. But at any rate, I would say, to sum up using wisdom on social media, a lot of times, here's something that we know. Just like God uses people to bless people, the enemy uses people to curse people, okay? And to distract people and to manipulate people and to just get people off their path, right? Or just get them to be confused or caught up in things that are petty and that are not worth their time, energy, emotion, any of that. So have that awareness, okay? And know that we don't wrestle with flesh and blood. So this is not about going after a person even. This is just recognizing spiritual activity that is happening, okay? So know that when you are putting yourself out there in a bigger way, crazy stuff, crazy humans, right? Crazy happenings happen with the territory, right? There's going to be a ton of praise. There's going to be haters. There's going to be interesting activity on any given day. And you can't always anticipate that, control it, any of it. So it's really important that you have a why that you're on these platforms in the first place, that you've got intention about how you show up, that it's not just lazy scrolling whenever you feel like it and you just get lost in it, that you have boundaries and standards and some sort of control that you operate within. So for example, if you were going to be changing your diet, let's say that you found out that there's a food allergy in your family and you want to start being all vegan and gluten-free, right? Then you're going to have different food in your pantry. You're going to cook different meals. You're going to avoid certain things. You're going to make sure certain things don't come into your house, right? You do not want somebody to be in pain, right? So you're going to set boundaries in place. So it's similar for you with social media. There's certain outcomes and certain results that you are after. There's certain ways of showing up that you feel inspired to show up as, confident that you're here to show up and do, right? There's gifts and talents and messages and things that you're called to steward. But with that, there's other things that you just can't tolerate. And there's things that you've got to be aware of. So keep that in mind, because if we are not clear, it is easy to wander. It is easy to get distracted. It is easy to actually get caught up in stuff. It is easy to engage things that are not worth engaging, really, right? So that's important. I would keep that in mind. Also, having a schedule and scheduling out power pockets of time, power hours, intentional, active time. I am somebody that gets on to post inspiration, share some words, and get off. I am usually not on there to scroll or to catch up or to do any of that. I might follow a few accounts because their content has proven to be delivering some sort of positive, uplifting, inspiring, challenging, thought-provoking things that help me. But other than that, it's not where I enjoy being the most. It's not where I enjoy being the most of my time. So I have boundaries around that. I have schedules that make my life easier. I have intentions. I have policies that I follow personally so that I can be consistent, so that I can really build rapport and connect with people in an authentic way. And so that I am not inundated and caught up in and distracted by things that are not the most effective use of my time. So for example, if I have, let's say I have 2 hours, okay? If I am called to be, let's say I'm called to be writing in this season and writing a book and I have a deadline, right? I've got that amidst other responsibilities, okay? And I get on social media. I could easily, if I don't have this kind of stuff in place, I could easily get on social media and drown out 2 hours of time. And I usually don't feel uplifted and inspired and better after that, right? I usually just feel like tired, bad about myself, something, right? Like it's not good. So think about that, right? Another thing that I've done just to bring context or perspective, take a card like this, literally write down from the time that you get up. Let's say it's 4:30 in the morning. So from 4:30 in the morning, 4:30, 5:30, 6:30, 7:30, you get the idea. Go all the way down until you go to bed. Let's say it's 10:30 p.m., 4:30 to 10:30 p.m. What in the heck are you doing every single hour? Literally, write that out. And if that is not revealing to you, I mean, I look at that and I'm like, wow, like there's a good chunk of time right here where I could be doing X, Y, or Z. Or, oh, I noticed that this time is usually where my energy wanes a little bit. So this is what I need to put in that pocket of time. Or this is probably the best time to do social media, whatever. Or this is where I should be writing, or this is where I should be doing more planning and different types of tasks, whatever it is. But this is where I have time where I can socialize with people. Usually for me, that's like a lunch hour or at like 6 p.m., right? So just pay attention. Something like that will really help you understand time, because I hear that a lot. I don't have time. I don't know how. I'm not inspired, whatever that is. Well, all of those things have solutions. You just have to decide to open yourself up. So if you don't know how, maybe instead of being on social media, learn something, Google it. Get on YouTube. There's so many instructional videos. Buy a book and read it on whatever it is that you want to learn, right? Or if you don't have time, get honest about your time. Write it down and then set a set time that you're going to show up and do that, so that you're not distracted and beating yourself up a majority of the time, right? Or if you feel like you're uninspired, well, if you took a break or only had set times, imagine how much time that would free up for you to actually be inspired. I usually am inspired when I'm not receiving information so much. I'm more inspired when I pull back and I'm aligning and connecting to God. And then I'm divinely inspired and I'm suddenly full or energized again. So, and then I'm led to the things that affirm what I'm learning, or that reinforce what I'm learning, or that open my eyes to something that I want to learn, right? So for what it's worth, hopefully this is making sense, but social media is a beautiful thing. It's a way for us to be connected. It's a way for us to share really powerful, life-changing content. It's a way for us to minister, to bless other people, but it also can be exposure to some not so fun things, and to some things that can't be tolerated, that need to be addressed. And you can do that if you do this preparation work in advance. And if you haven't done this, this is an invitation to do that, where you can decide what is your policy for how you're going to interact, how are you going to schedule your time so that you can be more impactful with your time, and then what are you going to show up and do consistently? What can you actually deliver so that you can gauge what is worth being compensated for and what's worth giving away for free? Taking care of yourself is a reflection of literally your capacity to take care of other people and to honor and to respect them as well, right? So if you are not taking care of yourself, if you're not honoring and respecting yourself, it's likely that that will be difficult to do to other people. So for example, there is a lot of insecurity out on social media, right? So if somebody is insecure, they can come and just comment all of their insecurities in a backhanded way on your page. And what are you going to do with that, right? Could you respond? Could you encourage that person? Could you bless that person? Yeah. But are you going to do that to every single person that comes through and does that? Is that the most effective use of your time? Or are you just going to keep being you? Maybe let that inspire content that you create and put out in the world, right? But how do you want to effectively use that? Is that actually worth engaging with? What is the outcome going to be, right? I believe just in general, like, of leaving people better than you found them. But I'm not often able to do that when I'm not in a good place, right? So hopefully this message blessed you. You can really enjoy social media, have fun with social media, use it as something that is a vehicle, a platform to bring life, to bring inspiration, to build people up, to encourage them. But that comes with intention, that comes with hard work, that comes with some strategy and some planning. And yes, some of the posting and that kind of thing can absolutely be spur of the moment, but some of these other details as far as how to handle that now, particularly if that's where you spend a majority of your time, that's really, really important. All right, holy Moses. If this message blessed you guys, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. You can copy the link and share it with a friend. So if you know somebody that is struggling on social media and isn't quite sure how to navigate making some change, this could be the message. So make sure you share that. I did mention I do have a self-mastery course, coaching programs, books, podcasts, blogs, freebies. All that is over at julianapage.com. You can follow me and connect with me over on Instagram at Miss Juliana Page. I'm fairly active every day in my stories. I post all the time, every day. So you can connect with me over there. I am somebody that is not active in DMs and comments, if you are curious. So that's not the best way to get in touch with me. The best way to get in touch with me is email, which is info.julianapage@gmail.com. So that's how you can connect with me. I'll put some of those details below. And until next time, guys, stay blessed.